percentage. Therefore, when you look at this sample as such, what happens that we can try to understand that these sample decisions always have some risk involved. Now, when you come to the hypothesis testing scenario, suppose, and I hope all of you are either working or all of you are either working in industry or in academic, or some of you may be doing research. So whether you are doing research or whether you are working in industry or whether you are in the teaching profession, therefore, in all this kind of scenario, always we try to make improvements. For example, suppose if I am a student, I try to make improvements in my study so that I get better score. If I am a teacher, I try to make improvements in my teaching process so that students get better score or I'm able to teach better. Suppose if I am working in an industry, I try to make improvements in the processes so that I am able to perform the job better. Therefore, in this way, once you look at it, we can say that whenever we want to make improvements in the process or changes in the process, we can basically try to see that we always get only a sample data. For example, as a student, when you study more, in one exam, anytime an exam is conducted, exam is always on a sample basis. Therefore, you can try to see how the performance in the sample, and then I can conclude whether I have studied well or not. Correct or not? Therefore, anytime when you pick up a sample, based on a sample, we make inferences about the population. That's what is going to happen. Therefore, if the samples are not properly collected, all inferences about the populations will become wrong. Therefore, all hypothesis testing is based on sample, not based on population. Therefore, in hypothesis testing, we collect data from the process or samples from the process, and then we are going to make inferences about the population. So that's what we talk about sample, the hypothesis testing. Therefore, when you talk about hypothesis testing, what we are trying to do that we are going to make inferences about the population, or you want to draw conclusions about the population. Most of the time, this hypothesis testing and related statistical analysis, people call them as inferential statistics. That means you make inferences. Okay, now coming back to our hypothesis, therefore sometimes when you look at the population can be finite or population can be infinite. Now, depending on the process scenario, you decide what type of sampling methodology you want to adopt, and then what type of data you want to collect and things like that. Therefore, based on all this, we decide about what type of tests need to be done. Okay, now when you talk about hypothesis and assumption. For example, think about a situation. Suppose I am working in a process. That process take maybe 1 hour to complete. Suppose I am working in a call center and my job is answering a call. Suppose answering a call in all aspects, suppose it takes 30 minutes. Now, sometimes the management or the customer feels that 30 minutes for answering a call is too much. Therefore, they may tell, okay, there is a scope for further improvement. Therefore, now think about the situation. I take some improvement actions in the process. Suppose improvement action, if I implement in my process, that means after the improvement actions are implemented, the time taken for answering a customer call should come down. That's what is required. Therefore, I can do a hypothesis framing here. So what is my hypothesis? My hypothesis is that I have improved my process. Therefore, when I say I have improved my process, so that is only an assumption, and that assumptions need to be validated based on data. Therefore, what I'll do, I'll collect data from the improved process. That means when people are answering customer calls, I'll collect data about how much time they are taking for answering customer call. And
Teacher,
that
sir.
data,
Teacher, sir.
yeah.
Sir, can you see from Dr. Preeti Patel?
Which one?
I will just, sir. Hello.
No, I can't hear you.
Sir, there is a question from Dr. Preeti Patil.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I will just unmute her. Just-
Yeah.
For Demat account,
So-
are there any extra charges on transactions made on Demat account? Every transaction will have a charge. There are nothing called as extra charges or road charges. When you buy a share, you have to probably pay the charge. When you sell a share, you have to pay the charges.
No.
To maintain the Demat account, you have to pay.
Sir? Hello?
Hello?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, 1 minute. I will connect that Preeti Patil. Hello?
Yeah.
Dr. Preeti Patil? Hello, madam?
Yes, I hope I answered the question.
Ajay, I am hearing a lot of cross talking.
Is there any software tool for determining sample size?
Which one? Any?
Is there any software tool for determining sample size?
Actually, for determining sample size, there are some formulas available. Actually, the formula basically tells that it is 2s divided by d all square. That is the formula which is being used generally. And any standard statistical software will give you that formula. And then what are the components of this sample size formula? One is that it is basically 2s divided by d all square. That is the formula. Okay, now the S stands for the standard deviation of the process. D stands for the accuracy requirement. Therefore, if you require more and more accurate decisions, you require bigger sample sizes. And if you have high inconsistency or variability in the process, you require maybe more sample sizes. Therefore, this is the usual sample size formula which is being used. It is 2s. S stands for standard deviation and divided by D. D stands for the level of accuracy you require. And you calculate this and square it. Therefore, 2s divided by d all square is the formula used. And this is also available in any standard software.
Sir?
This is fine?
Yes, sir. I can go ahead.
Okay. Therefore, I was talking about a scenario, how do we generate hypothesis? Therefore, whenever we want to prove something or disprove something, we assume something in the process. For example, the case which I was talking about is that I have made an improvement in the process and I assume that as a result of my improvement, that the answering time has come down. Therefore, this is an assumption. And this assumption I can call it as a hypothesis. Now, how do I prove that? For proving that, I require some data of the calls answered after my improvement actions. Also, I require some past data before the improvement. Now, if I have this past before and after data, therefore I can use some statistical techniques, conduct some test, and conclude is there a real change or not. Therefore, in hypothesis testing, we take this decision: is there a real change? And if there's a real change, then what is the conclusion? I have improved the process. That is the conclusion. If there is no real change, then we conclude the process has not improved that much. My claim is wrong. Therefore, ultimately, my claim or the hypothesis or the assumption, is it true or not? That's what we are trying to prove here. Are you getting my point? Is this fine? Any questions on this?
Sir, no question,
Yeah.
sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Therefore, we take some assumption or hypothesis that need to be proved or not. Therefore, whatever you want to prove or disprove, that we call it as a hypothesis. Okay, now when you talk about hypothesis, now the case which I was talking about, there can be two type of scenario. Yeah.
Sir, you can go ahead. Slides are
Okay.
not moving. You are doing the introduction only, sir.
Which one?
The slides are not moving. Only
No,
this.
I don't change the slide.
Okay, okay.
Okay, the bio. Okay, now therefore, when I am talking about this hypothesis testing, I have two type of scenario. One is that the case which I was talking about. One scenario is that after my actions also there is no change in the process. The second thing is that after my actions there is a change in the process. Therefore, I have basically two type of hypothesis. One hypothesis says no change, and another hypothesis says there is a change. Change means improvement. Therefore, anytime when you talk about a hypothesis, okay, I just want to share one more file. Means just want to write something. Are you able to see this screen? This
Sir, we are seeing.
PowerPoint or the paint format?
Hello.
Yeah, actually, I want share my. I want to share one more to write. Okay, let me just see.
There is a no, sir. Right side. You can ask for. Okay.
Okay,
It's a paint actually.
okay. Are you able to see this screen?
Yes, sir.
The paint screen.
The paint screen came and it went back.
All of you are able to see, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Therefore, when I talking about a hypothesis, I was telling there can be two type of hypothesis. One is talking about no change, and another talk about there is a change. Therefore, when you say there is no change, that hypothesis we called as null hypothesis, or is generally denoted as H naught. So we'll write as it is known as H naught. H naught is a hypothesis where we talk about no change in the process. And now, therefore, when I am making an improvement, the time taken for answering customer call before my improvement and after my improvement, they are same if I say that is known as null hypothesis or H naught. And now, when you then other option is that before the improvement and before the action and after the action there is a change, I can say that hypothesis is known as alternate hypothesis, or generally we write this in the form of something called H1. Therefore, you have two type of hypothesis. One is H naught and another is H1. H naught basically talk about no change, and H1 talk about there is a change. Therefore, any type of scenario when we talk about this can happen. Uh, any improvement actions you take, for example, see, suppose I want to reduce my weight, therefore I do some morning walk. Now, after some 3 months of morning walk, I can frame a hypothesis. The hypothesis can be there's a reduction in my weight. Now, when I say there's a reduction in my weight, is this H0 or H1? Since this hypothesis talk about a change, it is an alternate hypothesis denoted by H1. Then what is H0 in this case? H0 can be no change. After 3 months of walking also, there is no change in my weight. If I write that, that is going to be H0. Therefore, in this way, any type of scenario, whenever you are doing a hypothesis testing, you can say that you can frame two type of hypothesis. One is known as null hypothesis denoted by H0, another is alternate hypothesis denoted by H1. Therefore, when you have H0 or H1, the next question is that which one will be true? Can both of them be simultaneously true? H0 talk about no change, H1 talk about there is a change. Therefore, both cannot be true at the same time. Therefore, only one of them can be true. Either H0, that means no change, or H1, there is a change in the process. Therefore, now whenever you are doing a analysis on hypothesis testing, what will happen is that we'll frame the hypothesis, what you want to prove, then we collect data from the process, and then we do analysis, and finally that analysis is known as the test, and after the test we are going to conclude H0 is true or H1 is true. Now let's go back to the previous case I was telling. Now when you talk about deciding about H0 is true or H1 is true, and since we take this decision based on a sample, there is always a possibility that your decision is wrong. And when you say your decision is wrong, what are the type of wrong decisions can happen? Sometimes it may happen that your H0 is true and you conclude it's not true. Similarly, it can happen that your H1 is true, but you conclude H1 is not true. Therefore, okay, now are you able to see the PowerPoint slide?
No, sir.
Which one is coming? PowerPoint is coming?
It's a black. It's black. Your PowerPoint is seen, sir.
Seen, right?
No.
Okay. Therefore, see, think about scenario. When you look at a case, look at this. The truth is, you have a, suppose you look at H0. If you talk about H0, actually H0 can be true or H0 can be false. These are the two possibilities. Therefore, when you look at H0 and H1, therefore,
This one's presentation.
which one? Presentation? Are you able to see presentation?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Then let me see.
Yes, sir.
Now you can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us look at this scenario. Suppose I have the null hypothesis. I have H0, and H0 can be, see, there is no change, can be H0. Now the issue here is that suppose in some process assume that the H0 is true, and then in some cases it may happen that H0 is not true. That means I'll write as H0 as false. Therefore, you can have H0 can be originally the truth. That means the reality is either H0 is true or H0 is false. And finally, you take, after collecting the samples, after collecting data, you take a decision. The decision can be accepting H0 or rejecting H0. Therefore, the truth can be, you have two options for truth. H0 is true or H0 is false. Ultimately, your decision can be you accept H0. That means you accept H0 as true and or reject H0. Now, in this way, when you look at, you can have four combinations of decisions. First decision can be you have H0 is true and you accept that. It's a correct decision, right? H0 is true and your analysis accept or decide H0. The second scenario is that your H0 is true, but once you do the analysis basically say H0 is rejected. That means H0, you are rejecting a true hypothesis. Therefore, this is a wrong decision. Similarly, it can happen that your H0 is originally false, but you accept that. That's also a wrong decision. And the last possibility is that your H0 is false and you are rejecting that. Therefore, in this way, four options. In these four options, we can say two options are correct. That means you have an H0, it is true, you are accepting that is a correct decision. When your H0 is false, after the analysis, you are rejecting that false hypothesis. That is also a correct decision. Therefore, these two are the correct decisions in the process. And what is happening here? In this case, we can say your H0 is actually true, but you are rejecting that. Therefore, you are rejecting a right hypothesis or a statement. That is known as type 1 error in hypothesis testing. Therefore, you have type 1 error. What is the meaning of type 1 error? Type 1 error is basically rejecting a true hypothesis is type 1 error. Now, look at this. This is a false hypothesis. You accept that. This is known as type 2 error. Therefore, you have two type of errors in making decisions. One is known as type 1 error, another is known as type 2 error. Type 1 error is rejecting a true hypothesis, and type 2 error is accepting a false hypothesis. Are you clear about this? Okay, now I assume that most of you are from academic field. Therefore, now if you are from the academic field, let us connect this. Yeah,
So there is one question from Krishnanand sir.
yeah. Tell me.
I will unmute him. Just I will ask.
Yeah.
Dr. Krishnanandam.
Yes, sir.
Can you please ask?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Tell me, sir.
What? Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Is weight is reduced and weight is
Yeah. Actually, your voice is breaking. Can you just repeat once more? Your voice was breaking.
weight is not reduced. Yeah, I have actually messaged you also,
Yeah.
sir, on the chat. I have given a chat to you. I have chat message to you. What if more hypothesis only
Okay.
it's not
Okay, now see hypothesis testing theory. It basically trying to test only one hypothesis.
okay.
Because see, think about the situation when I am trying to reduce weight. What is that I want to prove? I only want to prove weight is reduced. Correct or not?
Okay, so we are
Therefore,
not checking how much or anything like that. We just want to say true or false.
No. True or false. Therefore, significantly is there any change? Is there a significant change? Therefore,
okay.
actually, anytime when you talk about a scenario, in my
Okay.
particular case, I only want to prove that my weight is reduced.
Okay.
Therefore,
okay.
whatever I want to prove in the form of a change, we call it as H1. Understood now?
Okay.
And now, therefore, if there is no change, what
Okay.
should I accept? That we call it as H0. That's all.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Therefore, in other words, we can say H0 is like status quo, no change, status quo.
Okay.
H1 is, for example, see, think about the situation. Suppose for an exam, I am studying.
Okay.
Therefore, therefore, when I do a lot of study, as a student, I'll make a claim I have studied.
Yeah.
Therefore, that means I have initially I didn't know the things. After this, I know the things. That's what I am claiming.
Yes.
Therefore,
Okay.
that means I have studied. That is H1. There is change on status quo.
Okay. Fine. Okay, like
Yes.
not is like a default condition, sir. Whether there's a change from
Yes.
that or not, we are just checking.
Yes, exactly. Therefore,
Yes.
is there a change or not? Now,
Okay.
what will happen is that generally about H0 and H1, we only say, are they same or there is a change? Now,
Okay.
when we talk about a specific case, for example, after some time, I'll just show you some exercises also. Therefore, that we'll take specific cases and then try to test, is there any change on that? Understood now?
Okay, sir. Thank you. It's good, sir.
Okay.
Good.
Therefore, now, any other questions?
I will connect, sir. No questions.
Okay. Fine. Okay, therefore, we can have either our H0 is true or H1 is true. These are the possibilities. And I just to prove about what is the type of decision possible, I have only taken H0 here. Therefore, in reality, H0 is true. Then, after the analysis, we conclude accepting H0 as the right decision. Suppose H0 is false, then the right decision may be rejecting H0. You have two correct decisions and you have two wrong decisions also. Two wrong decision means there is a possibility of making a wrong decision. And these are the two possible wrong decisions. One wrong decision is that a true hypothesis is rejected. Another is that a wrong decision is that a false hypothesis is accepted. Okay, now I'll just tell you an example. Suppose I go for buying some item from a shop. It can happen that there is a good item, but I conclude the item is wrong or not good, and I reject that. This type 1 error. And similarly, another scenario, I go for buying some item. Actually, the item was faulty, but I was believing that is good, and then I buy that. Therefore, a wrong thing is being purchased by me, type 2 error, right? Therefore, in that way, you can have type 1 error and type 2 error related to any process. Now, we can also say that, see, as per our Indian judicial system, basically we say that no innocent should be punished. Correct or not? Therefore, actually a person is innocent, and what is supposed to happen? He should not be punished. But if an innocent go to jail, we can say this is like type 1 error. That means actually the person is not innocent, but that innocence is being rejected. Is type 1 error. The second scenario, actually the person is guilty, but the court let him free. That means is type 2 error. Okay, now you think about which type of error is more serious, type 1 error or type 2 error? Many times we can see,
Type-
many times people see which side we are in, that we
Type
try to
two.
see, right?
Type 2 is wrong. They are definitely difficult, sir.
Okay, now the thing is that in most of the industrial scenario, we consider type 2 error as more serious.
Yes, sir.
But as per Indian judicial system, they say type 1 error is more serious, right? It says even if 1,000 guilty is let free, no innocent should be punished, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, now let us try to look into this scenario. The scenario is something like this. Suppose I want to reduce type 1 error. In this case, that means if type 1 error is reduced, means I want to ensure no innocent person go to jail. This is my objective. If that is the scenario, what will happen? In that process, many guilty will be going out freely, right? Therefore, in this way, what can happen is that whenever you want to reduce, or when you try to reduce type 1 error, maybe type 2 error may go up. Okay, I'll tell you another example of this. Suppose you are working in the recruitment or in the HR department of a company or a institute, where you want to recruit faculty or you recruit employees for the organization. Now, what can be type 1 error there? A good candidate comes and a good candidate is coming, but you are rejecting him, is type 1 error. Then what is type 2 error? A bad candidate is recruited is known as type 2 error. Therefore, for an organization which is more serious, rejecting or recruiting a bad candidate is more serious than rejecting a good candidate, right? Therefore, in this way, we can have type 1 error and type 2 error assessed for every scenario. There is a branch of statistics known as industrial statistics. In industrial statistics, they call this type 1 and type 2 error as producer's risk and consumer's risk. What does it mean? That means suppose a producer, a manufacturer, manufacture a good component, and if a customer reject that, that means a good item is rejected, is type 1 error. And who suffer there? The producer or manufacturer suffer. Producer's risk as type 1 error. Now suppose a manufacturer manufactures an item which is not good, but a consumer buys that. Therefore, a bad item is accepted. We call this as type 2 error. Therefore, type 2 error also is being defined as, can also be defined as consumer's risk. Therefore, in that way, in industrial statistics, this type 1 and type 2 error people try to define as producer's risk and consumer's risk. Okay, now, I hope the concept of type 1 and type 2 error is clear, because see, in the online session, the problem is that I am not able to see your faces also to judge whether you are able to understand. Therefore, many times I take an assumption that you are able to follow. Okay, now we have two type of errors here. One is type 1 error, another type 2 error. Now, in statistics, we can calculate probability for everything. Therefore, here we can calculate the probability of type 1 error. This probability of type 1 error we called as alpha. Therefore, alpha, you can see here alpha risk is written, right? Alpha means probability of type 1 error. That means probability of rejecting a good hypothesis is known as alpha. Now, you might have heard always that in statistics we always talk about 95% accurate decision or 95% confident decision and all, right? Therefore, now this risk is opposite to the confidence. That means if alpha is if you take a decision of 95% confidence, then what is the risk involved? Risk involved is 5%. Therefore, generally all hypothesis testing is being done by taking alpha equal to 5% or 0.05. That means we take decisions with 95% confidence. That is the meaning of this. Therefore, anytime statistically, as I was telling earlier, whenever you take a decision based on a sample, you cannot be 100% accurate. Therefore, generally we try to see that our decisions are 95% confident. Therefore, that's why we call alpha as a risk. Alpha is the risk involved, and we generally fix at 5%. Therefore, our confidence is 95%, or we can call 1 minus alpha. Therefore, and then another thing is that probability of type 2 error is there, that we try to fix at beta. Therefore, probability of type 2 error means accepting a hypothesis which is not true. That probability of that is defined as beta. Now, what happens that, as I was discussing earlier, if we try to reduce type 1 error, type 2 error will go up, or that means if I try to reduce alpha, beta will go up. If I try to reduce beta, alpha will go up. Therefore, all the available hypothesis testing right now, what it has done is that it has fixed the alpha. Anyway, the existing theory of hypothesis testing, all type of hypothesis testing, what you have heard about, is based on alpha error. Therefore, alpha is fixed. Therefore, you can decide what should be my alpha. Therefore, generally the understanding is that in any type of industrial processes or any type of processes, people fix alpha at 5% if you don't have any other specific requirement. Suppose if you feel that I cannot take 5% risk, my process is highly risky and all, then you can think about maybe alpha is equal to 1% and all. Alpha 1% means confidence will be 99%. Or suppose if you feel that your process is not that much risky and all, then you can even take alpha as 10%. But generally the assumption is that unless and otherwise you have a special scenario, we always fix alpha at 5%. That means you always take a decision at 95% confidence. Therefore, because that's why anytime when you do hypothesis testing, any software you use for hypothesis testing, they always ask for something called either confidence level or alpha. If they ask for confidence level, we'll write generally 95%. If they ask for alpha, we say 5%. 5%, or if you do remove that percentage, we can say 0.05. Any question on this so far?
So no questions, sir, so far.
Okay.
Yes.
Therefore, now based on this alpha and beta, let us try to understand what test we can do. Okay, now let us go back to our previous case. See, I was telling an example that I do everyday morning walk and my objective is to reduce my weight. Now, after doing this morning walk for some times, maybe on different days, I'll collect my data. Therefore, there can be slight variation in my weight. Similarly, before the walking started also, I collect data for weight data on few days. Therefore, there can be some slight variation in my data. Therefore, now what I can try to see that if my average weight has come down, I can say my actions are appropriate. Therefore, in this way, I can test for averages. Sometimes what happens that in a class, suppose anybody who is a teacher, when we can say a teacher is a good teacher, if there is a lot of consistency in the mark of the students, right? So think about the division in a class. If there are students with 0 mark out of 100 and 100 mark out of 100, that means we cannot say the class is consistent or uniform. Therefore, there the problem is about variability. Therefore, if you are able to reduce variability, suppose everybody gets score between 60 and 80, we can say the class is more consistent than 200, right? Therefore, in that case, if I want to test for consistency, I can test for variability. Therefore, I can test for averages, I can test for variabilities. Therefore, in that way, when you try to look at what are the type of tests I can try to do for any measurable data, I can test for mean. Mean means averages. I can test for variances. Now, sometimes, okay, now when I am not talked about that. Generally in statistics, I was thinking that some introductory session on statistics, you might have seen this. Any data, when you look at it, this data can be classified in statistics as measurable data and attribute data. Or people call this as continuous data or discrete data. Continuous data means any measurable data we call as continuous. Discrete or attribute data means any countable data we call as continuous data, or sorry, attribute data. Now, if the data is continuous or measurable, we calculate average, standard deviation, and all for the data. For example, when I talk about weight, height, or time, all these are continuous data. We can calculate average and standard deviation for that. For example, if you talk about what is the percentage attendance? When you talk about attendance and all, how many people are present is a countable data, or how many people are passing is a countable data. How many or how many calls are answered in an organization in a day, in a shift, is a countable data. Therefore, all this kind of countable data we call as attribute data. Therefore, for a measurable data, we can calculate average and standard deviation. For a countable data, generally we calculate percentage or proportion, right? That means how many people are there total. Out of that, how many are present. Therefore, number of persons present divided by total number of people. This is basically percentage. Therefore, we can say this is attendance percentage, or how many students are writing exam and how many are passing. I can calculate passing percentage. Therefore, these are basically count data. These are known as discrete data. Therefore, in discrete data, we calculate the proportions. Proportion means proportion of people passing, proportion of people present, proportion of calls answered, or in that way, or proportion of people are recovering from corona. All this we can calculate, right? How many people are affected by corona and infected by corona, and how many people are recovering. Therefore, I can say number of people recovered divided by total number of people. I got proportion of people. Therefore, all these are attribute data. Therefore, in this way, when you have data, either it is a measurable data or attribute data. Measurable data, we calculate average, standard deviation and all. And for count and average, we denote by average. We have two notations. I don't know whether you are familiar with that. One is X bar, another is mu. You understand what is the difference? Mu is for the population and X bar is for the sample. Anytime when you pick up a sample, the average we denote by X bar, and anytime when you pick up the population, the average we denote by mu. Similarly, for standard deviation also you have two notations. One is S, another is sigma. S is for the sample standard deviation, sigma is for the population standard deviation. Therefore, now whenever we collect sample data, we get X bar and S. Whenever we do hypothesis testing, we do test for the population. Therefore, the hypothesis testing, whenever we are doing, we can do the hypothesis testing for mu, average, or sigma, standard deviation, or proportions and all. Therefore, now depending on the scenario, I can have different type of hypothesis testing. Therefore, I'll just show you, explain to this through an example. So let me try to share one more file. Are you able to see this Word document?
sir.
Can you see the Word document?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. If I just given some examples here, let us try to look at how do we frame hypothesis. Okay, let us read this exercise number 2. He says the shelf life of a photographic film is of interest to the manufacturer. Therefore, what manufacturer measure there? The data is on shelf life. Therefore, shelf life is measured in time. Therefore, is a continuous data, right? Therefore, the manufacturer observed the following shelf life for 8 units in days. Therefore, how many units, how many samples is being tested? 8 samples. Sample size is 8. And this is the shelf life. 108, 128, etc. 134. Now, this manufacturer want to claim that my shelf life is more than 125. How do you prove that? Therefore, is the hypothesis clear? Any question on about this hypothesis?
Sir, no question, sir.
Okay. Therefore, see what happened. Is there any evidence that mean shelf life is greater than 125? Therefore, what do I want to prove? As a manufacturer, I want to prove that my shelf life is more than 125. Therefore, now when I want to prove shelf life is more than 125, what is that hypothesis, H0 or H1? Here we talk about a change more. Therefore, any inequality form which when you want to prove, we call this alternate hypothesis. Therefore, here if I want to write the hypothesis, I'll just go back to the paint screen to write something. So what we'll try to see that. Are you able to see the paint?
No, sir. Please, sir.
You can see now? Paint?
Yes, that it does.
Okay, now, therefore, here we want to prove the average is more than 125, right? Our paint you are able to see now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Therefore, average we call it as mu. Therefore, we can say we want to prove this mu greater than 1. This is what we want to prove. Therefore, when you want to prove mu greater than 125, this is an inequality. Therefore, we will write this as H1. Therefore, our H1 is mu greater than 125. This is what we want to prove, or he want to prove in this case. Okay, now let us think about a scenario. Anytime when you want to do a hypothesis testing, the hypothesis testing theory says you should have H0 and H1. And hypothesis testing theory says H0 should be equality, H1 should be inequality. Therefore, anyway, H1 is inequality is more than 125. Therefore, I need to write an H0 also. Now, what H0 I can write? H0 I can write as mu is equal to 125 because this is a requirement for the theory. But what we want to prove is this. So whatever you want to prove is this H1, whereas H0 is for the theory purpose we are written down. Therefore, we want to prove a hypothesis H1 mu greater than 25. Is the situation clear? Therefore, what happens here that we are comparing this average with a constant here. Okay, now let us look into the second question. Sorry, third question. No, little later. Okay. See, I'm just referring to question exercise number 7. Are you able to see this question? So is this word file?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exercise
Okay.
7.
Exercise 7. Okay, now here the question is something like this. There are two machines filling up plastic bottles, and both the machines were supposed to fill 16 ounces. There were machine 1, they have collected some samples. Machine 2, they have collected some sample. And then the quality engineer suspect that both machines fill to the same net volume. Therefore, quality engineer want to test in that company whether both the machines are filling the same volume or not. That's what is his requirement. Therefore, here what we are trying to see, we have two populations there. One is from machine 1, another is from machine 2. And therefore, we want to test a hypothesis that whether both the machines are filling the same volume or not. Therefore, in this case, if I want to write hypothesis, I have one average for machine 1, another average for machine 2. Therefore, I can write this as machine 1 and machine 2 averages. That means I can write as mu1 and mu2. Therefore, let me try to write down the hypothesis for this. How the hypothesis comes. The hypothesis can be something like this. We require H0 and H1. So what he want to prove is that both the machines fill the same volume, right? That's what he want to prove. That means if I call mu1 as the average for machine 1, mu2 as the average for machine 2, he want to prove mu1 is equal to mu2. Now, I was telling earlier, you have two type of hypotheses, H0 and H1. H0 always talk about equality, H1 talk about inequality. Therefore, when he want to prove this mu1 is equal to mu2, we can take this as our H0. Therefore, H0 I will frame as mu1 is equal to mu2. And then what can be H1? Okay, now please remember in this case, he has no intention to prove machine 1 is having more volume or machine 2 is having less volume and all. He only want to prove they are equal or not. Therefore, in this particular case, I can write a hypothesis as, I can write an alternate hypothesis as mu1 not equal to mu2. And this I will write as H1. Therefore, I have H0 and H1. H0 I will write mu1 equal to mu2. That means both the machines are filling the same net volume. And H1 is mu1 not equal to mu2. That means we are writing the volumes are not same. Understood now? So can you just look at these two problems? The first problem I was writing hypothesis as mu equal to 125, mu greater than 125. Here I am writing mu1 equal to mu2 and mu1 not equal to mu2. So what is the difference between these two questions? In one question you can see we are testing only one average. In second question we have seen we are testing two averages. Therefore, the first case we have only one sample. If you look at our web file here, the first question, this exercise number 2 we have seen we have only one sample of size 8 units, right? In this question what we have taken, we can see we have two samples. Here machine 1, one sample is there, then machine 2 there is another sample is there. Therefore, here we have two samples from two populations. Therefore, when you look at this kind of data, we can say when you talk about the hypothesis testing, we can say the first case was testing for one sample, or we call this as one sample test, and the second case was testing for two samples, therefore we call this as two sample test. Are you clear on this? Can you see this slide now? PPT?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, when you test for means, you have different type of situations. One situation is that I compare my average with a constant. Suppose any student write an exam, his objective is to pass. And how to pass? Get more than 60% mark, for example. Therefore, he only want to test a hypothesis, the mark is more than 60%. That means he will have only one hypothesis, one average to be tested, right? Now think about another scenario. The case I was telling, the machine 1 and machine 2, are they filling same net volume? I want to compare two averages. Therefore, I have mu1 is equal to mu2 is my hypothesis. Now, sometimes it may happen that, for example, see, now this coronavirus is spreading in different states, and suppose if somebody want to study what is the performance of different states, or which age group is being spread in different states. So each state can have an average. And then in that way, when I want to compare multiple averages, I can have a hypothesis like mu1 equal to mu2 etc equal to mu k. Therefore, in this way, you can have three type of average testing. First type of average testing is mu equal to mu naught, mu equal to a constant. Earlier we have written mu equal to 125. That means one average is equal to a constant. Second is mu1 is equal to mu2, two averages I am comparing. Third is I want to compare k averages. Now what is the test we are using here? When I want to compare one average against a constant mu equal to 125, I use something called one sample t-test. When I want to compare two averages, we do something called two sample t-test. When I want to compare multiple averages like this, we do something called ANOVA. Therefore, these are the general. There are many more tests are there. Because of this time limitation, I am not talking about that kind of test. Therefore, I'll only focus on these three type of thing. One is when I want to compare one average with a constant, I'll talk about one sample t-test. When I want to compare two averages, we do two sample t-test. When I want to compare multiple averages, we do ANOVA. Are you clear on this?
Yes, sir. No question, sir.
Okay. Then similarly, therefore similar to that, we can test for variance also. I can compare variance to a constant. I can compare two variances. I can compare multiple variances. Therefore, we write H0 as sigma square equal to a constant. That is a one sample case. Two sample cases, sigma 1 score equal to sigma 2 square, and multiple sample is that sigma 1 score equal to sigma 2 score equal to etc. sigma k square. Similarly, when we go to proportions, I can compare one proportion, two proportions, and multiple proportions. Therefore, these are the different type of test. Now, sometimes one more thing is there. Sometimes some kind of scenario we try to test the independence of attributes. Therefore, independence of attribute, what it means that when you have independence of attributes, we want to test whether things are independent or not. For example, think about a situation. Suppose when you look at the result of a university or a college, we can say that sometimes the result is depending on the subject what is being taken, right? Or sometimes it may happen that the result is not depending on subject, is totally independent of the subject and all. In that way, if you want to talk about the independence or dependence of the attributes, we can talk about something called the chi-square test. Therefore, these are the different type of tests which are possible. And now there are some formulas also available for each of these. And now let us go back to your sample and then I'll just demonstrate some of them. Okay, now how much more time I have?
Sir,
How much more time I have?
sir, I can take up to 130.
Up to 130, right?
Yes.
Okay. Therefore, now let us talk about this case. This is a case which I was talking about. We have framed a hypothesis in this particular exercise number 2. We have framed a hypothesis. That hypothesis we are telling as mu greater than 125. And then from the previous slide we have seen when you have that kind of a scenario. This slide has told us mu equal to mu naught. That means mu equal to 125 we want to test. Therefore, the test what we are doing is one sample t-test. Therefore, now I'll just show you a software. Just one of the simplest statistical software. It is known as Minitab software. Now, in the Minitab software, what happens that we can do all type of statistical analysis. This Minitab software also looks similar to our this worksheet also looks similar to our Excel worksheet. Therefore, I have just entered this data. See whatever data you see here. For example, this is our data exercise 2. 108, 128, 134, 163, etc. 134. All that data I just entered in the software. Shelf life 108, 128, etc. 134. Therefore, now I will just try to do this hypothesis testing using this software. Okay, now if anybody want to get the software, some demo versions are available in the website. if you go to that Minita, this software website, Minita, name of the software is Minitab, and they have a website known as minitab.com. If you go to the minitab.com website, you can download the demo versions and it works. Now, in this software, when you look at any statistical analysis, when you want to do, it is available under the stat command. There is a command known as stat. Under that, all the statistics is available. So now I am going to do a hypothesis testing for this shelf life data. Now we have seen our alternate hypothesis is mu greater than 125. And since this is mu greater than 125, we are testing for one average. We can say it is one sample t-test. So in a one sample t-test, we go to stat. There is something called basic statistics. We go to this one sample t. There are a lot of tests are there. We try to do this one sample t. Are you able to see or no? No, I think I have not shared this, right? Okay, let me just, one second. Okay, now, are you able to see this file now?
Now it's visible. Yeah.
Minitab is visible, right?
Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay. Then let me repeat what I had told earlier. So Minitab, this is a Minitab statistical software. Because I forgot to share it earlier. This is a Minitab statistical software. When you open this looks like a Excel worksheet. And I just, for this exercise, what is there, I have entered the data. Therefore, this 108, 128, 134 and all, the data I have entered here. It is shelf life is the data. And in this Minitab software, you can do all type of statistical analysis. Therefore, how to do statistical analysis here? Anyway, you can download a trial version also from internet and try also. So go to the stat. There is something called statistics option. Under statistics, there is something called basic statistics. We get a one sample t is the name of the test. Are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Therefore, in this one sample t test, when we click, therefore all the variables comes here. Then what is our variable name? C1 shelf life, right? Therefore, I'll select the shelf life variable here. Then we want to do a hypothesis test. I click on this hypothesis test, and against what value I want to test. Here, what we want to test is against 125, right? Therefore, we write here hypothesized mean as 125. Now we have to tell our what do you want to prove, more than 125, less than 125, not equal to 125 and all, right? Therefore, we'll go to these options. Alternate hypothesis, I'll select as greater than hypothesis, that means greater than 125. And then earlier I was telling you have something called alpha, right? Alpha is basically the risk involved, and opposite that I was telling confidence. Therefore, generally in all the cases, people take alpha as 5%. That means confidence as 95%. Therefore, this software has considered this by default as 95%. If you want to change to 99%, 90%, all these are possible. Otherwise, by default, we give it as 95%. Now let us click OK. Let us click OK. Therefore, now what has happened is that we had a sample size 8. It has a mean, standard deviation, all kind of things. Then we are testing a hypothesis. This is what we were writing earlier. H0 mu equal to 125 against H1 mu greater than 125, right? Then the software will give you something called a probability value. Now, based on the probability value, we need to take a decision. Now, what is the decision for the probability value? Therefore, the decision is like this. Therefore, this is a universal decision. If p value greater than 0.05, your decision is reject H0. This is a decision. Therefore, anytime when you do a hypothesis testing, we can say in the hypothesis testing, whatever decision we are going to take, this is going to be our decision. If p-value more than 0.05, reject H0. That's our decision always. Therefore, every hypothesis testing case, when you look at, we try to look at what is our p-value, and based on the p-value, we take a decision here. And why we take consider with 0.05? Because we are considering 95% confidence. Now let us go back to Minitab software and see what is the p-value here. It is 0.133. So what I have told that if the p-value more than 0.05, reject H0. Now in this particular case, what we have observed is that the p-value is more than 0.05. Sorry. Yeah, I have written it little wrongly. It is less than 0.05. I will write in the Word document only. Now here, the conclusion is that if p-value less than 0.05, reject H0. This is the conclusion. Therefore, any time when you do hypothesis testing, any type of testing we do, therefore, this is the only conclusion we make. If p-value less than 0.05, reject H0. That's the conclusion. Therefore, our H0, therefore, this is not only for one sample t-test. Any type of hypothesis testing you do, any regression analysis you do, or any design of experiment you do, any type of analysis you do, this is what is going to be our decision. Therefore, now we look at our hypothesis. What is the p-value here? P-value is 0.133. Now, if p-value is what I have told is that if p-value less than 0.05, you reject H0. Reject H0 means you go with H1. Therefore, for high p-value, what we are going to do that? Low p-value, go with H1. High p-value, go with H0. If I want to write in other language, if you say p-value less than 0.05, we reject H0. That means low p-value, you are going with H0, H1. High p-value, we go with H0. And what is the cutoff value? Cutoff value is 0.05. Therefore, in this case, let us look at the p-value is 0.133. The p-value is 0.133. 0.133 means is more than 0.05, right? That means high p-value. High p-value means we go with H0. We go with H0 means we add H0 and H1 here. H0 is equal to 125. H1 is more than 125. Therefore, now is the claim here. Is it greater than 125? It is not acceptable. That's the conclusion from here. Okay, now let us go to this case. Machine 1, machine 2. As I was saying earlier, we write test hypothesis mu1 not equal to mu2. Therefore, this is basically a two sample t-test. Therefore, I entered this data also here. Machine 1 and machine 2, C11 and C12. Therefore, we'll go to stat, basic statistics, two sample t-test. It is asking samples are in one column or different column. So our samples are in different columns. Sample 1 is in machine 1. Sample 2 is in machine 2. Then go to options. Alternate hypothesis is, anyway, we are written there as not equal to. So that is fine. Okay. Click OK. Now here, instead of mu1 equal to mu2, they are writing mu1 minus mu2 equal to 0. That is the notation for the software. Otherwise, we can write as mu1 equal to mu2. Now, look at the p-value. How much is p-value? 0.435. That means p-value is high. Now, what is the conclusion? Look at this conclusion. P-value low means we would have gone with H1. P-value is high means we go with H0. Now, what is H0 there? H0 is mu1 equal to mu2. Therefore, for mu1 equal to mu2, what is the meaning in this question? In this question, the meaning is that both the machine average 1 is mu1, average 2 is mu2. Therefore, we can say that both the machines are filling the same volume. Therefore, that's the conclusion. Therefore, what we have done is that we had a practical problem. Practical problem is whether the average of both the machines are same or not. That we are converted into a statistical problem in the form of a hypothesis testing. Then we have framed a hypothesis testing like mu1 is equal to mu2. Then we use this data, we analyze this hypothesis, and we made a conclusion based on the p-value. Therefore, based on the p-value, we concluded that both the machines are not having any differences. That means mu1 is equal to mu2. Therefore, this is what is being done as two sample t-test. Okay, any questions so far?
Sir, no question, sir, so far. Sir,
Anyway, I know I am going a bit fast because
no question so far, sir. Please go ahead.
okay.
Sir,
Okay.
there's one question from Harsha Vannavaldi, who been a
Yeah, okay. Yeah, tell me. Okay. No, yeah.
hello, Harsha.
Hello, sir. Yeah, hello, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Sir,
tell me.
yeah, in the previous example, right, like where we are measuring the samples of 108, like for the 125 thing, mu equal to 125.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, here you told H not H1 H not equal to mu equal to 125 is the accepted value.
Yeah.
Okay, if like is it we need to make it H1 mu1 is greater than 125 or less than 125 here?
Okay, okay. Now the thing is that the question asked here is that is there any evidence that shelf life is greater than 125? Correct?
Okay, yeah.
Therefore, what is being asked that is the mu greater than 125? That is the question.
Okay.
Is the mu greater than 125? Okay. Now, when you have an inequality, any inequality which you want to prove, we write is that H1. That's what I had told earlier.
Okay.
Any inequality will be written as H1. Therefore, here what we want to prove is mu greater than 125. Therefore, that we will write as a inequality. Now, therefore, that's the only thing which we are interested to prove. But what happens that in statistical hypothesis testing, the theory says you should have something called H0 also. Therefore, just for the purpose of the theory, we are written H0 as mu equal to 125. Therefore, now the thing is that you can either go with H0 or you go with H1. Correct or not? Depending on the p-value.
Okay.
Now, in our case, the p-value is high. Therefore, when the p-value is high, we are supposed to go with only H0, right? That's what I have written here as conclusion.
Yeah.
Therefore, that means
Okay.
your claim of H1 is not true. That means
Okay.
the shelf life is not more than 125. Understood?
Okay. Got it, sir.
Because see, what happens at any time, any hypothesis testing you do, one sample T, two sample T, or variance test, all type of scenario, you should have always two hypotheses. One is always equality. Whatever is equality, we call it as H0. Then whatever is inequality, we call it as H1. Understood now?
H1. Okay.
Now, if you
So
go
here-
to the second question, what I was talking about, in this question, what we wanted to prove, that both machines are filling the same volume. That's what we want to prove. Okay, since we wanted to prove that, but
Mm.
it is an equality, therefore we take it as H naught. Understood now?
Sure. Okay.
Then what is the
We-
appropriate H1? Appropriate H1 is they are
It's
not
not
equal.
equal to.
They
Yeah.
are not equal. Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So that's why we are taken H1 as that.
Mhm. Is it like in the first example, can you take like mu1 is greater, I mean, h0 is greater than 125, as well as h1 is less than 1, take it? Or
Okay, now,
is it
now,
fine?
now the thing is that no, it is not fine because see,
Okay.
the existing theory of hypothesis testing,
Uh-huh.
it is based on something called a Neyman-Pearson theorem. So there, they basically assume that start with H0, which is equality.
Okay.
Therefore,
One,
therefore, it is the
okay.
requirement of the theory.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise,
Then
see,
like, okay. Then if I want to take any of the sample, like one should be always the equality, other one should be the other
yes,
way around.
one should be
Okay.
always equality.
Where's the equality? Okay. Fine.
Therefore, whenever you do a hypothesis testing,
Mhm.
H1 can have any of the three.
Mhm.
H1 you can write as less than, greater
Mhm.
than, or not equal to. Any of these three
Less.
is fine for
Okay.
H1. Now, depending on the scenario, we decide which one to be selected. For
Okay.
example, this particular case, we are selecting
Uh,
H1 as greater than,
uh,
that volume filling we are taking H1 as not equal to, right? Therefore,
okay.
depending on the process scenario, we'll select
Yes.
one of
Okay.
these three alternatives. Understood now?
Okay. Yeah, I got
But
it, sir.
but please remember that H0 has to be always equal to. That's why see
Equal.
if you
Okay.
are seen if you have seen this Minitab software properly,
Mhm.
we have only selected H1, correct?
Okay. Yeah.
We are not selected H0, right?
It's not.
Because H0 it is assumed is equal.
Equal. Okay.
That's why software has not given any provision for selecting that also.
Okay. Good. Yeah, less than it was there. Greater than, and yeah.
Not
In
equal
that,
to was there
in
for
the,
H1.
not equal to us there. Yeah, yeah. Three options were
For,
there in that Minita software. Yeah.
for H1. But
Uh-huh.
H0 we are not touched anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
Therefore, all the softwares assume that
Uh-huh.
H0 is in the equality form.
Okay.
Actually,
I got it.
that is the requirement of the theory. That's why it is.
Okay. Fine. Okay,
Okay.
sir. I got it. Yeah.
Sir,
Thank you.
sir, there is a question from Dr. Nagabhushan, sir.
Yeah.
I will come here.
Yeah.
Sir, Dr. Nagabhushan, sir. Hello,
Yeah.
Dr. Nagabhushan, sir. Hello. 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 Dr. Nagabhushan, sir. Hello. Dr. Nagabhushan, sir. Can you hear me? Hello. 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 Can you hear me? Sir, this is Nitya. Nitya, 1 minute, sir. Correct, Nitya. Teacher, sir.
Yeah. Please.
This is a question from Nitya. Please, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, I will just connect.
Okay.
Nitya.
Yes, sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, I have a question related to my research topic. I meant research
Yes,
problem.
madam. Yes, madam.
Suppose if I'm using one particular method and I want to check whether that method improves my performance, final performance of the model. So
Okay.
in that case, how to frame my null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis? Because null hypothesis should be like which is not proved yet.
That means no change, right? No improvement.
Yes, but my conclusion should be like the method which I have used has improved my performance outcome.
Okay. Now
So that
therefore
yes.
see what about it? You have some performance characteristic that can be measured, right?
Yes. Yes.
Therefore whatever is that performance characteristic, you can say they are same in the beginning as H0.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Actually, performance, can you just tell the name of one performance characteristic?
I can say accuracy, sensitivity, or specificity, anything. Like I have
Okay.
4 performance measures to be
Okay.
verified.
Okay, therefore each of their performance measures, you can try to see, okay, then if you have 4 performance measures, one is that you can have H0 telling that the performance measure for the old model and new model, they are same. That is H0. Understood now?
Okay, sir.
And the H1 can be the performance measure of the new model is better. That's what you want to say?
Yes.
Therefore, if the accuracy, you want to say accuracy has improved. Correct or not?
Yes. Yes.
It's an inequality form, right?
Yes.
Therefore, in that way, you can have H0 and H1. Okay, now I have another suggestion for you. See,
Right.
if you want, since you have 4 performance characteristics,
Okay.
you have to do test 4 times. If you are
Yes.
doing this, what you say, 2 sample t-test, you have to do 4 times, right?
Yes.
Instead of that, you have some other option known as multivariate analysis of variance and all, MANOVA.
Yes, sir.
You try that, that may be better. So
Okay.
that all, because see what happens that when you test 4 performance characteristics, it can happen that 3 may show some improvement, 1 may not show improvement and all, right?
Yes, sir. That's what. So
Therefore, in that case,
should I write 4 H0 and 4 H1? For each performance, I have to frame different hypothesis.
actually, if you are doing 2 sample t-test, you have to write 4 H0 and 4 H1.
Okay.
That's why I was suggesting you try to do that. You can just refer some material known as multivariate analysis. Multiple variables can be considered together there.
Yes. Okay,
And
sir.
then there is something called multivariate analysis of variance and all. It is known as MANOVA. MANOVA. You
Okay.
try that, whether things may be working better there.
Okay. So with one H0 and H1, I can do that.
Yeah, therefore here what happens that we write the individual values, average and standard deviation, right?
Yes.
Therefore, there instead of a individual value as average, we write a vector form, and variance we write a matrix form. Understood now?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Since there are multiple variables, but
Okay, sir.
sometimes in some kind of data scenario that may not be possible, then you have to come here only. Understood now?
Okay, sir.
Therefore,
Thank you.
but if you are able to do that multivariate type of analysis, it will have better acceptability.
Okay.
Just try, and if the basic conditions are not met in your data, then you may have to come back and do sample t-test.
Okay,
Then it
sir.
will be 4 times.
Okay. I got it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Srinivas sir, anybody else?
No, sir. I just go ahead.
Okay. Therefore, I hope that you got some general idea about this type of analysis, right? 1 sample T or 2 sample T and all. Therefore, ANOVA is just a generalization of that. There also we try to look at the
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
yeah. There also we try to look at the p-value. Now I'll talk about a discrete data scenario. Let us look at this question number 14, exercise 14. It says a company 4 shifts each day. From production records, the following data on number of breakdowns are collected. Therefore, I have shift 1, 2, 3 shifts are there, 4 machines are there, and this is the data on breakdown. Therefore, what does it mean? Therefore, when number of breakdowns, they are collected for a period of time, maybe for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months like that. Then in this data says, what is the meaning of 41 here? 41 means when during the data collection period, machine A was having breakdown 41 times in shift 1 and 31 times in shift 2 and 15 times in shift 3. Similarly, machine B, 20 breakdowns in shift 1, 11 breakdowns in shift 2, like that we got a data. Therefore, now in this case, I have 2 variables. One variable is shift, another variable is breakdown. Sorry, machines. Now, and then breakdown is another variable. Machine is another variable. Therefore, now it is asking a question. test the hypothesis that breakdowns are independent of shifts. Okay, now with whatever information I have told you earlier, can you tell what type of data is this? Is it discrete attribute data or measurable data? I hope all of you understand this as a countable data, number of breakdowns. Shift is also a countable data. Therefore, we can say we have a countable or attribute data. And when you have a countable or attribute data like this, and if you want to test the independency or dependency, we use the chi-square test. So when you talk about chi-square, the usual notation for chi-square is like this. Chi-square is written as something like this, chi-square. Therefore, we can say this is basically what we chi-square test. So with the chi-square test is done when both variables are discrete or attribute type. For example, suppose instead of this, either both variables are continuous or measurable, we would have done regression analysis. Please remember the difference between chi-square test and regression. If I have data, shift data was continuous as well as breakdown was continuous, I would have done regression analysis. Since both are discrete, I want to test the relationship independence or dependence, we do chi-square test. I hope the things are clear. For here we can do a chi-square test, and chi-square test also we can do by using the Minitab software. Anyway, I have entered this data already for different shifts. The machine ABCD different shift data is there. 41, 20, 12, like this, the data is there. Therefore, we'll do a chi-square test. For that, if you can also go to Minitab again, tables, you can see chi-square test. Data is in column 20 A, B, C, D, 4 machines data. Then, yeah, this is fine. It performs a chi-square test. Click OK, click OK. And it does a lot of calculation, anyway, it doesn't really matter. Finally, it gives something called a chi-square test. Therefore, we try to look at the Pearson chi-square test. P value is equal to 0.07. Now here, what is the hypothesis here? We have two hypotheses here. One, H0 and H1 has to be written. I can say H0. You require H0 and you require H1. Therefore, H0 is that. Therefore, we have two variables here. One is breakdown, another shifts. I can say shifts and breakdowns are independent. That is H0. H1 is shifts and breakdowns are dependent. Dependent. These are our hypotheses. The hypothesis shifts and breakdowns are independent is H0, shifts and breakdowns are dependent, and we got the p-value. P-value from the software. P-value is equal to 0.07. I think if you look at this, you can see the p-value 0.07. So we get a p-value of 0.07. Now the question is that are we with H0 or are we with H1? Since the p-value is more than 0.05 here, we go with, that means p-value is high, we go with H0. And when we go with H0, what does it mean? That means shifts or breakdowns are independent. What does it mean? That means the breakdowns are not depending on shifts. So many times in industry and all, people have a feeling third shift there will be more breakdown compared to other shifts and all. Therefore, when you have all this kind of hypothesis, we can test by using this. Therefore, this basically says the breakdowns keeps on happening, whether it is first
audible. So,
Can you hear me?
yes, sir.
Oh, I think my internet got disconnected.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, now things are clear, right? Visible.
now
No, it's
yeah.
okay. Therefore, see, whatever I have shown till that chi-square test was seen.
Sir,
Chi-square test.
sir, it is changing. It changed that. Switch over to that.
Explanation what I have. Eh?
Sir, there is no slide, sir. It's
No, so okay, I'll use it. Sharing once more. Where is that? Yeah, any till the chi-square test it was seen.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Seen. Okay, okay.
No
So
question.
then after
So,
chi-square test, and then the conclusion which I was telling.
not sir.
test that is seen?
Hello?
Okay, okay. Now are you able to see me? See this?
No, sir. Yeah. Yes. Sir. Visible, sir.
Word file is coming, na? Word file.
Yes. Yeah, coming.
Okay, okay.
Oh, please
Final
carry on.
what I was telling.
How much time will you request? Sir? Hello? Hello?
H1. Yeah. Yeah.
Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, okay. Therefore, you have H0, H1 says shift and breakdowns are independent, and we got a p-value of 0.07. That p-value is more than 0.05. Therefore, we are concluding that shifts and breakdowns are independent. Therefore, I think this is what I was telling at the end. Then the last thing I was trying to tell you that if any one of you have any further questions on this, I can take few questions before I close. Srinivas sir.
Sir,
Yeah, if any one of them have
yeah. I will check it, sir. Is there any questions? Yes, sir.
yeah. Because if any one of them have any questions, I can take their question. Otherwise, I think I'll. And I just see whether anybody has any questions.
Any questions from participants? Wait a minute, sir. See,
Eh?
wait, somebody is asking how to download Minitab. Sir,
There is a website by the name minitab.com. From the minitab.com website, you can download the latest version of Minitab also. The only thing is that it will work for only a limited period of time. They give a full version, but it will work for only a limited, I think 1 month or something. Only it will work. Then you can try to see some older versions and download all this way. You can try. Therefore, go to minitab.com.
sir,
Eh?
there is a question from Vaishali.
Yeah. Please.
Can you please ask, sir? Ask. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Tell me.
And what is the p-value? We are taking it as a critical region or what, sir?
Okay. Now p
P
value is okay. Okay. P value. What it means that see you calculate. See in the previous case, I was showing a p value. Before that, there's a t value and all, right?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, now t value or chi-square value, whatever it is, when we talk about the test statistic now.
Okay.
That test statistic when you consider that test statistic value to infinity, that area we calculate, that is p value.
Okay. Means okay, sir. Okay.
Understood? Otherwise,
Same
if
how
you
how we are taking our critical region like that only means when it is two-way, na? So
actually critical region you identify based on 0.05 or 0.10, right?
yes, sir.
Therefore, instead of that, when you are using a software, you may not have any statistical table with you. Therefore, what we do that we calculate that p-value. That means that test statistic to infinity. What is the area? Then compare with that p-value. Therefore, if your thing falls in the critical region, p-value will be less than 0.05. Understood now?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, that's the conclusion.
Understood. Okay. Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
one more question.
Okay.
Sir.
Yeah.
One more question from Achut KN.
Yeah. Please connect.
Achut.
Hello, sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, in what situation that analysis of multiple that variations ANOVA can be helpful when we're going to take the different types of the sampling for our research data or any other field data also?
Actually, ANOVA is being used. See, there are that madam was asking a question sometime before now. Therefore, what she wanted to do that she wanted to multiple variables together. When she wanted to test multiple variables together, we do ANOVA.
Oh.
Otherwise, what about if I want to test one variable for different things? For example, see, think about the situation. Suppose I am running a call center. In call center, there are two people who are answering customer calls. For example, I can collect data from person 1 and 2, and I want to test is there any difference. I can do two sample t-test. Correct or not? Now suppose instead of 2 persons, I have 10 people there. Then I have to compare person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, person 5, etc. up to person 10. That means I want to test a hypothesis mu1 equal to mu2 equal to mu3 equal to etc. mu10. There you do ANOVA. Understood now?
Okay.
Now suppose one thing is that therefore now what I have told is that you test for answering time only one variable you are testing, you do ANOVA. Understood now?
Okay,
Now
sir.
in that way answering time is one. Search the data answer in your database another variable. In that way that madam in the previous question she was asking she has 4 variables, right? 4 variables, then it will come to multivariate case. ANOVA and all.
Okay.
Understood now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
One more question from Gokula, please.
Yeah, please connect.
He is asking, how can we fix the threshold values?
How can you?
Fix the threshold values.
No, I didn't get you. How can you?
Sir, hello. How can we fix the threshold values?
Ajay, threshold value means you talk about the p value or the test criteria value. Which one?
She asked like that only. How can we fix threshold values?
Because if it is threshold value means if you talk about the p value are you talking about p value limit or?
Okay, one minute, sir, I will connect her.
See, if it is p value, generally what happens under general situations we consider p value compare with 0.05.
Yes.
Now otherwise what happens if you feel that your process is highly critical, you may reduce the p value, and if you feel it is not that critical, therefore you can relax that. Therefore it's a process decision. The experimenter can decide about that p value. If nothing is specified, you take as 0.05.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Is Madam Gokula Priya got it? Hello. There is some issues from Krishnananda L. Shall I connect him?
Hey, connect. Please connect. Please connect.
Okay, sir. He logged out.
Okay.
So far, no more questions, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Anyway,
thank you.
at the end, I think I had some internet connectivity problem. Okay, now things are fine. Okay.
Anyway, sir, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks to all participants for having a patient hearing for last 1.5 hours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get back to you, sir, after this.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
इसको